Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Ellen Stevens. How are you doing today?
Very good, Caroline. How are you doing,
Woo.
by the way?
Yeah, I'm doing fine as well, and I'm so
Yeah.
happy we meet again. We had the pleasure already to meet here on Be Connected, and I
Mm.
want to introduce you a little bit. I read your bio, and I know that you are an international profiling and communication specialist, and you have worked with international clients like Disney Films or Gillette. And also, what did I read about the Australian Federal Police, and
Mm.
you help them to understand how people tick. And I like the word how people tick. Would you expand a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, well, everybody is, there's no two personalities are the same on the planet. We've all had different past experiences. We may have the desire, similar desires, like to belong, to be valued, to feel that we contribute, etc., that we're loved, etc. But all of us think differently. All of us have different personalities. And so to be able to understand what drives a person, how's the best way to talk to them, make better connections with them. So it was a friend of mine who taught me one of the aspects of what I do, which was the facial features, a lady by the name of Naomi Tickle. And Naomi wrote a book called, it was all about the word tick was in there, how it makes people tick. And I just loved the term. And I thought, yeah, I do want to know how people tick. And that stuck with me ever since, that's over 12 years now.
Yeah, and I loved it so much because it reminds me of a watch or of a clock. They are
Mm.
ticking, right? And time is ticking as well. So I like this. And yeah, what inspires you would be my first question. There are so many things. What inspired you to do this profiling
Mm-hmm.
stuff, let's say, or to teach people as well how to do this, and what inspires
Mm.
you in general in your life?
Yeah, yeah, well, in life, anything we do, we've got to have a strong purpose behind it. We've got to have our why. And the reason why I profile people today and I help other people to build stronger relations as quickly as they can is because I was dreadful at it. I've been through two divorces, a lot of broken relationships. I'd even had some of the business partners who had emptied the bank out on me. And after my second divorce, around about the age of 50, I decided I needed a better way of understanding people. I'd already added a number of skills to it, but then I picked up the little twitches on a person's face, the micro expressions, as we call them, and the facial features that tell me someone's personality. So if I've got their photograph, I don't have to ask them a single question. If I've got their photograph, I've got their personality. It doesn't tell me what they're thinking about, but it tells me how they like to think and process. Once I've got that, I know how to change the way I like to be spoken to match the other person. And if I may, as I say, there is no right or wrong trait. Every trait has an upside and every trait has a downside. The downside is how we get triggered when we're stressed. The upside is shows our strengths, the things that we love to do. So if we know that, we know how to get the right careers and everything else, the right tasks to do to be happy. And if we know the downside of our traits, instead of them controlling us, we know how to set our environment up so we take dominion over our traits. And so I got involved and understood that side of it. So when I look at somebody, as I said, I can read them. And I know that straight away, if I may, when I meet you, Caroline, you just want the least amount of information. You just want the overview compared to someone like me who's extremely analytical, who wants to know all the ins and outs of every little aspect of it. If I started talking to you that way, you might be interested at first, but you're going to get bored after a while. You're going to switch off. You'll try and finish my sentences off and get me to move on. Well, if I know that, I know how to present to you in the way that you need to be spoken to. And that's showing you respect. And that's why I read people, is to show them respect on the first side, to build relationships. And then from the second side, then is to pick up, is there something emotionally going on? And if there is, how can I help them with that? And if they aren't telling the truth, I'll be able to pick that up as well if they're not telling the truth, but not using that as a lie detector, but using it as a truth seeker. Because the reason you might not be telling the truth could be emotional, something that's happened around you. Well, if I can build a relationship with you and understand that, then I can probably help you with it. And
Yes,
so everything's
absolutely.
always done to build a relationship, never to manipulate one.
Yeah, and maybe also never to lose a relationship
Mm,
if we don't want to. Of course, there are people we have to say goodbye. And all what I'm
mm,
presenting are beliefs. Of course, it's my belief system, and we can change this as well. So I'm
mm.
very happy that we connected today again. And we can speak about, and I have to be careful about what I say, but you read me already, I think you said this. Okay, and when you said after two divorces and at the age of 50 or so, does that mean you did something completely different before that?
Well, leading up to that, I was with our national telephone carrier in the computer section for 22 years. I left them in the early 90s, started my own businesses, and I've worked in just about every industry you can think of. But the common thread that I found in all of that was my role was always thrown at the deep end, helping to understand the organisation and helping people to build better relationships. And I was doing that all the way through, but I was struggling with it. But after my second divorce, I was helping a friend run a spiritual retreat. And while I was there, we were running, I was using Myers-Briggs as a workshop and getting everybody, all the introverts on one side, all the extroverts on the other side, give them scenarios, a lot of laughter with getting them to explain how they would do things and then breaking them up and bringing them back in the other dichotomies. And at the end of the day, somebody just said to me, Alan, have you ever looked at reading faces? And so that was, I love to use the term, it was at the turn of the century. So in the early 2000s that this happened. And I went and I found Paul Ekman, who did all the research on the micro expressions. So I did a lot of training with his group. And then at the same time, as I mentioned before, Naomi Tickle, they're an English lady who lives in California, lovely lady. And we became good friends and I did the course with her. And then I realized that she wasn't doing anything with the micro expressions. Paul and his counterparts, they weren't doing anything with the facial features. The body language was another term again, and the language we use. So I looked at that and thought, right, facial features tell me the personality. So I know how to change the way I like to be spoken to match the way they do. I've got the language then to be able to do that. And then I got the feedback from the body language and expressions that tell me, did I read them right? Is there something emotionally going on? And are they telling the truth? So I brought the four sciences together and therefore called it the science and art of reading people, because it took four sciences, put them together in a way which I deliver as an art form. And I teach people how to use those skills across all different industries, including school teachers and parents raising children.
Mm, that's so amazing and also necessary. I think it's very good to know this or to be trained in this. And
Mm.
you are also teaching. Yes, and you teach what you wanted to learn for yourself, right? You are
Mm.
giving this now to other people.
Yeah.
Yes.
How often does that happen, eh? For all of us, we're always drawn to something that we need.
Mhm.
So a lot of people who become counselors had a lot of stuff going in their life and they had to fix that as well. And we get drawn into those particular fields. As I said before, I was disastrous at reading people. Now I'm considered as one of the world's best. And so when people say to me, is this something that I can learn? And I go, well, look at my history. If I'm able to do what I do today with the history that I had, anybody can do what I do. And so that's why I enjoy breaking those paradigms with people, getting past the lack of confidence and everything else, or the imposter syndrome that they have if they're in business, to show them that they have greater qualities than they actually realize. The good thing is I can see it even when they can't. And then help them see that. That really gives me a lot of joy.
Do I look like a future profiler?
You're already, when you were born, you were already a profiler,
Ooh.
because every young child needed to be able to recognize who was who was mum, who was dad, who were family, who were the people they shouldn't be around. And we also needed to pick up the people's emotions as well, their expressions, their tone of voice and all the rest. So young babies, when they've got no other knowledge of who's who, they have to be diligent and very focused on what's going on. So they're profiling all the time. But as we get older, well, we're playing sports, we're going to school, we've got hobbies, as we're growing up, we start chasing boys and we start chasing girls, partners and all the rest of it, all these activities. And so we don't need it as much now because we needed as survival when we were first born in our toddler years. But as we get older, we know who people are. We've got a fairly good idea of we don't have to be so diligent in watching them. So it's just like any muscle. You don't work it, it atrophies.
Mhm.
So really, I like to tell people I'm not so much an expert or anything. I'm a personal trainer that helps them get that muscle back where they used to be able to read people before. If anybody, there's only a very small percentage of people who can't recognize facial features, can't recognize faces. And that's usually a medical condition.
Mhm.
Outside of that, everybody listening to this, I can guarantee when they were young, they were great profilers. And any of your listeners who have got young children, I'll ask them this: how often do your young children push you to the edge, but not over the edge?
Yeah.
They're reading you all the time. They know how far to push their parents. They know what the breaking point is. That's what they test out. And they're testing you all the time. They push you as hard as they can, not to break you, but to see whether you will hold. And they want to know how far they can push you, and you hold. And
Mhm.
so they're perfect little profilers.
Oh, I love that example. Thank you so much. This is something I have to think about now. Yes. Wow. So my next question is, who inspires you? And you mentioned already the people you worked with to attain the knowledge, or for the 4 sciences you mentioned. And who else? Is there someone like a mentor or coach
I've got
today?
a few good friends around me that, because as they say, you are a combination of or an average of the 5 closest friends you'll have to you. But when it comes to people who inspired me, I know a lot of people, rattle off names like Jim Rohn and, Tony Robbins and all these different people. I was a lifesaver at one stage, and in the lifesaving, my job was I was a zone supervisor and a club captain. And my job was to examine all the kids who were doing their bronze medallions to make sure they were proficient to go into the surf. And every last one of them inspired me, because I looked at the beach, the water and everything else, all the rips, in a completely different way that I could never look at with my eyes. But with their young eyes, they explain things differently. God, I learned so much from them while I was examining them. And it's everybody I work with inspires me. See, I run a group called the Campfire Project, where I interview men from all over the world, all different backgrounds, and now women as well, where they come in, they tell the stories they've never been able to tell anybody before. Then we join into panel discussions, and we've had a full range of all the different gender identities, the religions, the cultures, etc. And people who've got men who have transitioned to females who have transitioned to men, all those sort of things. And I sit and listen to their stories, and every last one of them, there's something there in their stories that really inspires me. Because as I said, I'm talking to somebody to respond to them.
Mhm.
I'm asking them questions and listening to them so I can understand them. And in that, I learned so much more about these people with that attitude. Excuse me. And in that, every last person inspires me when I talk to them, because they all look at things differently, which gives me a new way of looking at the things that I'm going through as well.
Yeah, I understand. The other people are the reflection of our thoughts, our past thinking. I refer to that because, because of the timeline. And this is also why I created this podcast, to learn more about people, to speak to people. And I think the listening aspect is very important. It's not about um, receiving something, like, you do something because of. No, it's just about enjoying the moment and the conversation. And if you are open, you always get something out of it to think about.
I think in every conversation, there's always a giving and receiving in the same process. I've had a lot to do with the Aboriginal communities over here, and they talk about reciprocity, where if you help somebody, or somebody helps you, then you go and you help them. I looked at that and thought, well, if I help somebody, I do it because I want to. So I've received straight away while I'm helping them. It may not be, well, people may measure that by, well, how much money did you get? How much? It's not about that. If I give my time, my energy, and that to somebody else because they need that, I do it because I want to do it. So in that process, I've received.
Yeah.
So in every transaction, conversation, etc., there's a two-way flow. And when we start understanding that, we take the expectations of other people, and we can enjoy their company even more. So I've helped a lot of people who weren't in a position to come and help me again. I've never given it a second thought. If they've asked me for help again, I've gone and helped them. If I've asked them if they find a way that they can help somebody else, pay it forward. Because if everybody's doing that, we're going to
Yeah.
receive from somewhere else. Somebody might say, oh, I gave all these people, I got nothing. But over here, they've received so much from this direction from somebody else. Well, how did that happen? Same situation. Somebody probably gave to them and they've passed it on. There's one thing that always happens. They talk about, if you clap your wings, or a butterfly claps its wings, or flaps its wings on one side of the earth, the wind blows on the other.
Yeah.
Everything cause and effect, everything flows on. Well, that is pretty well true. Maybe not that situation, but everything's connected and things flow on. So if we've got that attitude, it takes a lot of pressure off us and we start to have a much happier life in the process.
That's true. It's the perspective of abundance. Abundance is everywhere, and we giving is receiving. That means it doesn't have to come from the same source we are giving it to, but not to reduce the expectations, as you said. Yeah, just doing it for the enjoyment, for the moment. And yeah, this is why we are here. I love it. And I would like to know, when people reach out to you now after listening to this episode, how can they help you with, or do you have special offers? What is it?
Well, I've always got a free course. I always say to people, before you put any money on the table, you really need to understand what you're looking at. So I've got a free course that I'm happy to give away to people all the time. And in fact, once they've got it themselves, they can pass on to other people. Because the more people who understand how this works, somewhere down the track, it might be somebody 10 times removed who then comes to me later on and says, hey, I've been through this. It was passed down to me from other people. And I could use with those services. And that's what I love, giving that away. At the same time, we're all, as I said before, I'm running the Campfire Project, which is my passion project. No money passes hands in any of that, but anybody can join and anybody can come along and tell their stories. Because when they do, we're connecting with, again, as I said, all gender preferences, the different cultures, the different religions, all the different backgrounds and ages. The oldest person I've interviewed was 99 years old. And the youngest one to actually interview anybody, he interviewed his father, who was my co-host. And young Oscar was 9 years old when he did it. So it was a range of 90 years between the youngest to the oldest. And so when I sat down and talked to I advertised it because the guy's name was Ted Hughes, and I told everyone I was doing a TED Talk. And I thought, as far as that, going on stage for a TED Talk or talking to this 99-year-old and listening to his experience, his life stories, give me that any day. I'm not chasing to be on the stage, but to have somebody and share that story with them, that was a real gift to me. So I really appreciated him doing that. So anybody who wants to join the Campfire Project, we'd love them to come in and join. They want to tell their stories, great. They want to sit in the background, that's fine. If anybody tells their story, then they can join in the panel discussions because people now know who they are. And if they happen to be a coach or something like that, once they've told their story and people now they've got credibility because people know who they are, they're running events, we'll advertise them in the group as well. Because it's all about connecting good people all together around the world so we can make a bigger difference. And that flows into my profiling and virtually the thread of everything that I do. As they say, what you do for yourself dies with you, but what you do for others and for the community is and always will be eternal.
Wow.
So
I heard this before. Thank you.
I don't know who actually said it, and if anybody is listening to this and they know, please send us a message. But it's absolutely a beautiful saying. And first 50 years of my life, I was really chasing relationships for myself. Once I stopped that, for the last 20 years or over 20 years now, I've been helping other people create their relationships. And funny enough, I've got more close relationships than I ever had when I was chasing the relationships. So I learned a lesson. When you give, to be of service to others, not be a servant, because I don't believe in being a servant leader. I believe in being a serving leader, because you can't be a leader if you're servant. If you're serving, well, that's what leaders do. And so taking that attitude on, I've been able to build some fantastic relationships, and every conversation I have, as I said before, is a blessing.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Thank you so much for our interview. I will put the links in the show notes, of course.
Mhm.
And please reach out to Alan. He's amazing. Of course, he shows you how to read faces and how to profile because he learned it for himself and then he shares it with us. I'm so blessed. Thank you so much. Yes,
Thank you.
and see you in the next episode.